we go. This is the Extraordinary Podcast, and my guest today is Micah Muzio.
What's going on, dude?
Did I get it?
Yeah, man, you nailed it. That was
Awesome.
really good. Not everybody
Awesome.
gets it. You nailed it. Muzio.
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing really good. Yeah, I'm excited to talk. This is fun because I don't think about things oftentimes before they happen. So I'm looking forward to a conversation and just sort of rolling with the punches. So,
Yeah.
so hit me with what you got.
Well, we've both been kind of scrambling this evening, so it's kind of been a comedy of errors to get things going. But we're gonna hit the ground running, and I'm super stoked. So, how's sunny Southern California treating you?
Well, right now much of California is burning. So I was out flying the helicopter yesterday, and it was a beautiful sunset. And this is sort of the nature of California, that you have wonderful sunsets, and they're made even more wonderful by parts of California burning down. You get all the particulate matter in the air. It's that juxtaposition of like, this is both tragic and amazing. To me, that is California in a nutshell. So it was a beautiful sunset yesterday. And, of course, my friends over in Irvine had to evacuate their houses earlier this week because, fires were encroaching. So, but I mean, all things considered, I cannot complain.
Yeah. Well, hey, at this point, if the whole world burned down, I'm not sure how much worse it would be at this stage in the game. But yeah. Well, it's interesting. You guys had those fires in California, and I've got family out in Colorado where they're also dealing with that same issue. And man, we were just out there, just outside of Rocky Mountain National Park, and stayed at this amazing compound. I mean, just gorgeous. What do you call it? Every typical picture that you could possibly imagine of what you picture Colorado looking like. And we were just out there for my sister's wedding, had such an amazing time. I took pictures left and right, and just found out 2 days ago, it's all gone.
Really?
All of it burned to the ground.
Oh,
It's just completely gone. It
Mm.
just absolutely broke my heart. And it made me so grateful for reflecting on the fact that we got to have so many memories, and I took as many pictures as I possibly could. So thank goodness for that, because now we've got something to remember it by. But it just absolutely broke my heart. But well, so we'll get this thing going on a positive note, because you are a super positive guy, and that exudes from you. So that was another reason I was really excited to talk to you. But the main reason that I want to talk to you is about, number one, your job, and number two, your hobby. So let's talk about what those two things are real briefly, and then we'll dive in deep.
Sure. My day job, I am a car reviewer at Kelley Blue Book. I guess the official title is I'm like an automotive journalist, but I always recoil at that title because there are real journalists out there. They're like people who are in war zones and do real journalism. And reviewing cars is kind of like, oh, wow, I drove a car. It's like, it's not heroic stuff, but it's a pretty neat job. I drive cars for a living, and I make videos about them. And I've been doing that at Kelley Blue Book since 2007. So I guess I'm old school. And then my hobby, as you alluded to, is I'm a helicopter pilot. So I've been flying since 2008. Though I bought my helicopter, the one I have now, I guess that would have been about 6 years ago. And I can tell you that because it's about 1 year longer than my daughter has been around. There's a story there, which we can get to later. But yeah, so I fly helicopters for fun. And I've sort of merged that with my work a little bit with my YouTube channel, where I do videos with cars and my wife and daughter. And I also do videos with my helicopter.
Well, I was gonna. All right, so yeah, my original plan was to dive into the work stuff because I love the work by design. But we've dove into the helicopter stuff. I think I'll cover that first, and we'll circle back around to the day job. So tell me about the first starting, or how you first got into the doing. How did you first decide you wanted to get into flying helicopters?
This is going to sound dumb, but I didn't decide on helicopters. They decided on me. When I was a kid, I literally cannot recall a time when I did not want to fly helicopters. I mean, it's like as ingrained in my being as anything else. which sounds weird, but I mean, I just can remember, I cannot remember a time where I didn't want to fly, but there were a few key moments that inspired or really kind of like sparked that fire that was already kind of burning there. So when I was a kid, I guess I was maybe 10 years old, we lived in St. Louis. My dad is a TV weatherman. And so when I was a kid, every 2 years we'd move to a new state. And he might, you know, my dad was the itinerant family weatherman. He'd just sort of go around and let's, we lived in Alaska for a while, then lived in Texas, Louisiana. So we were in St. Louis. And for my birthday, my dad knew I loved helicopters. Oh, you know what? Actually, this happened. There are two different things that happened here. So my dad worked this TV station and they had a helicopter, a news chopper, right? So every year, there's this festival that happened right across the street from where we live called the Green Tree Festival. And it was like, you know, like funnel cakes and, you know, vendors and stuff. But they would always bring in all these helicopters, military helicopters, local news helicopters, that kind of stuff. They would land in the baseball diamonds there. And then it was sort of a static display. So I walked over and I was just sort of looking at all the helicopters because I loved them. And I noticed that the helicopter for my dad's TV station was there. So I walked up and I talked to the pilot. I was like, oh, hey, my dad is Micah Muzio. He works at your TV station. He's like, oh, yeah? You want to go for a flight? And so I said, I got to ask my mom. And so I went and got my mom. And so I talked to that pilot and sure enough, like my mom, my brother and I all flew with the pilot back from where we lived to the TV station. And that day, I guess I was 10 years old, was the first time I ever laid my hands on the controls of a helicopter. The guy let me fly. It was a Jet Ranger. And I was in the front seat and he let me fly the controls. And I remember him telling my mom, you know, on the intercom, you know, like, Mrs. Muzio, your son's flying now. My legs couldn't touch the pedals. They weren't long enough, but I had my hands on the cyclic and he's like, you know, push forward, then make us go down, pull up, and make us go up. And so that was pretty impactful. And,
if that didn't plant some seeds.
Yeah, totally. And so I always wanted to fly helicopters. The thing is, the notion of actually flying helicopters, let alone owning my own helicopter, was such a foreign concept. It was unthinkable, to be honest. The idea that I'd be able to fly my own helicopter one day it was absurd. So, and yet here we are.
It's amazing, right? Yeah. Like, who would have thought it? So what was your first experience of flying for yourself? Like, when did you first get into doing the whole flight school and all that sort of stuff?
So I guess I'll give you the abbreviated version of the Micah Muzio career trajectory because it is relevant. So when I graduated high school, I was done with school. I never went to college. I played in a band and I was a janitor. And then I worked my way up to maintenance man and I had a bigger set of keys.
Yeah, at like a resort, right?
Yep. Yeah, at a place called Sky Mountain Resort in the tiny mountain town of Stallion Springs in California. You'd have to really know the place. It's you can't drive past there. You have to want to go there. It's in the middle of nowhere.
You have to find it, right?
You really have to find it. But so I got married to my wife, with whom I'm still married, and she asked my dad if radio might be something that I could get into because, you know, the band was starting to flounder and maintenance work was fine, but there's only so high you can go with that. And it wasn't creatively satisfying.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. So I didn't realize she had talked to my dad about it, but my dad asked me like, hey, Micah, have you ever thought about radio? My dad, the TV weatherman. And I was like, I don't know, man, that seems beyond me. He's like, well, if you're curious about it, you know, I know you can talk to the program director at my old TV station or my old radio station in Bakersfield, tiny little town that people might know from driving through and getting gas on their way to somewhere better. And so I did. I reached out and I got a job in radio for like 3 hours a day. I would push buttons as a board operator. It's absolute entry level. But from that, I built a bit of a career as a radio guy. And while I was there, sort of like working my way up through the ranks in local talk radio, there was a radio show there called Drivers Talk Radio that needed somebody who could help them during live remotes. Like, we're broadcasting from Jim Burke Ford and we need somebody here who can like keep the board going and like, do calls and like that kind of stuff. And I was like, I need to be in with these people because they had weird connections. They had the first PT Cruiser I had ever seen. They had access to the 350Z when that was brand new. They would talk to these like executives. I'm like, who are these people? I need to be a part of this.
Yeah, so I need to be in there.
Yeah, exactly. I got my claws in them. And so I started doing a lot of free work for them and just really ingratiating myself. And eventually I became a part of their group And their group, what they do was actually not, it's this weird Rube Goldberg approach to radio. So this is a very long way to get to helicopters. Trust me, we will get there.
No, this is perfect. I'm about to shift gears and go right into the work stuff, man. We're going to come back to this.
So the thing is, they had a radio show to legitimize videos they would make promoting car makers. The host would walk onto the screen and he'd say, "Hi, I'm Rick Titus, the host of Drivers Talk Radio." And they had a radio show specifically so he could say that. It's crazy, but that's how it works. So I worked on the radio
like the show. Grand Ole Opry was just there so they could sell insurance, essentially.
Exactly. Yes, that kind of thing. And so I eventually started helping on those videos. And that led sort of into the world of working on videos and automotive media beyond radio. So that was more of the automotive stuff. And eventually, through a bunch of stuff that I am not going to bore everybody's time with, I met a guy named Jack Nerad, who also had a radio show about cars, and he needed an engineer. I happened to be nearby, and through that relationship, I worked with him for several years, and that guy was the executive editorial director at Kelley Blue Book. And when Kelley Blue Book decided to start doing videos way back in 2007, I happened to be the guy nearby who had a weird combination of media experience, automotive knowledge, and I had proven that I was reliable and somebody that he wouldn't mind spending 8 hours a day near. So
you were good at what you did too.
Yeah, I guess. And so that's how I got hired at Kelley Blue Book. All of that is to say, I went from janitor, where the idea of buying a helicopter or flying helicopters was unthinkable, to getting my helicopter pilot license in 2008 through that weird circuitous career path. So in 2008, what had happened is that we had sold our house in Bakersfield right before the collapse of the economy. And I'd gotten a job at Kelley Blue Book. It was cresting. The housing market was cresting, and we just managed to get out at the very last second. Beautiful. And so we took what we made on the house, and that paid for my helicopter pilot license, which shows you how supportive my wife is.
Yeah, which shows you have an amazing wife that loves you quite a bit.
Yeah, and so in 2007, when we moved to Long Beach and started working with Kelley Blue Book, one of my first priorities, because I had always wanted to do it and it was now finally within reach, was to go fly. So it took me about a year from beginning to end to get my private pilot's license, but it's been an incredible journey because one of the things I love about aviation, specifically flying helicopters, is that the first time you fly one, to me, it felt unflyable. It is the least natural human endeavor I can think of besides space. Like flying a helicopter is very, very difficult.
It's not supposed to work like that, right? Like
it's not. There are too many things happening simultaneously.
You're defying a lot of laws right there.
Yeah, totally. They say helicopters don't fly; they beat the air into submission, and I think that's true. But the 2 feet, the left hand, the right hand, all of that working together, and then simultaneously understanding your spatial relationship with the world, and then also communicating with air traffic control and being aware of what's around you. For me, like I tend to be in my brain quite a bit, and I spend a lot of time thinking about what's next. And what's beautiful about aviation and flying helicopters in particular is that it is so engrossing. You can't help but be in the moment. Yeah, you enter that flow state of everything else disappears, and you are only flying. And for me, that's a really wonderful place to be. And I don't think any place really puts me there quite like flying helicopters.
Yeah, because it takes all of that focus, all of that concentration, and really paying attention to what you're doing. And one of the things that is appealing to me about the concept of flying helicopters in particular, and really all of aviation, is that constant striving for excellence, or constant. You know you're never going to reach perfection, but it's always trying to be the absolute best, and you have to be, because it's life and death. And I think
you're absolutely right. Like there's something about like no matter where you are in your aviation journey, you're a perpetual student, and you're absolutely right. I love that part of it.
It's like jujitsu. You're never fully mastered. There's always something else to learn. There's always something else to to improve upon it. And in aviation, there's always something to check to make sure that everything's working right. One of your videos I totally geeked out on was the one with the maintenance guy going through all the stuff that they did through your, like, I guess it was like your 1 year maintenance routine or something like that. And me being that, because again, I come from that world, being the construction guy, general contractor, facilities maintenance, all that kind of crap. I totally dorked out on all that. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. Because, like, just like knowing like how keeping everything lubricated, like that was a big thing in some of my past work, like keeping everything working the way that's supposed to. It's like all that stuff matters. And
I have such an appreciation for people who know their business and know how to do whatever they do brilliantly. And I've seen bad helicopter maintenance, but like, it doesn't matter what the domain is. Like, somebody who cares about doing amazing work, and you can see that in the fruits of their labor. And so for me, it's the same thing. It's like, I don't have the time or discipline to be a maintenance person with a helicopter. But when you see somebody who just fixes things because they see they could be fixed, man, that's the best. I just love that. So that was a fun video to make.
That perfection of the craft kind of thing. Well, and I think that really does apply to you, and I think that really defines you. One of the books that I love is based off a Steve Martin quote, and it's called "So Good They Can't Ignore You."
Love that.
And the idea. So one of the things that as I've been creating this personal development plan, and one of the things you read a lot about is like this idea of pursue your passion or do what you love and all this kind of stuff. But really, to me, it's different. To me, it's you get really good at something, whatever it is, whether you're a janitor at a resort or a maintenance guy doing routine inspections or whatnot. Like you, Micah, you are really good at this editing and the video stuff and the content and all those things that you became really, and running that board at the radio station, because you became really good at that. And I loved what you said earlier. You were consistently showing up. You were always there. They knew they could rely on you. That gave you these opportunities. That created this chance for you to work at Kelley Blue Book. That got you to where you are now. And obviously it translated with the opportunity to fly as well.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of times where we have negative traits that can be channeled in positive ways. One of my negative traits is that I tend to assume that I am just days away from having to go back to be a janitor. And no knock against janitorial work, but that's not where I thrived the most. And so I would say even up until like a couple of years ago, I thought, man, I'm just hanging on by the skin of my teeth. And in one way, that's a very unhealthy way to view things. It's unrealistic. I mean, I could probably keep working in this field and it'd be fine. In another sense, it's been great motivation to continue to do great work and to continue to find new ways to new explorations of what we're doing with video. So, and I guess one other thing I did want to mention is that the idea of pursuing your passions, I think it's overrated, because I had no passion for video when I started this. It's literally just the opportunity that happened to be in front of me. So I would say that people think they know what they want and think they know what they'll be good at. But if you are rigid in how you approach your passions, then oftentimes you will neglect other avenues that you may never have considered. I had no intention of being a video guy. Literally, the only reason why I'm on camera now is because when I was working at this company, Jackson Dawson, we were making videos, training videos for car makers. We were making a Mitsubishi video, and it was about how a salesperson can deliver a car to somebody who's just bought a car, and they needed to be hosted, but they did not want to pay for a host. And I happened to be in the room, and they're like, Mikey, can you host this? I'm like, I don't know. It seems beyond me, which by the way is a continuing theme in my life. I don't know, man. But what am I going to do? This is my job. So they had me host a video, and it was awful. It was awful. Here's how bad it was. So I was so nervous to be on camera that first time that if you look at the raw footage of it, by the way, somebody's in a Mitsubishi dealer somewhere right now can probably go find a dusty DVD.
We're gonna have to dig it up.
Dig it up, and you can see me, hosting some awful video. But if you watch the raw footage, I got this crazy migraine, and it was like I'm feeling pretty good. I'm okay. Let's do this thing. And then this migraine came over me. And so it was like painful. I'm sweating. I can't focus. So, you hear the director guy and he's like 5, 4, 3. And I'm just like sort of like down and like massive pain and then 1 and then just right into it. Like, okay, let's knock this out. It was such a rough experience that, check this out. If you look at my backpack right now, that was 14 years ago. I always have a bottle of Excedrin with me just in case I have one of those headaches again. It defined part of my life. So clearly I wasn't gunning to be a video guy, but that's just what happens.
It's amazing. You just answered a question that you don't even know that you answered that's coming up at the end of this interview. I love it.
Oh, that's I can't amazing. Wait.
Oh, that's going to be such a little spoiler. That's perfect, man. That's so perfect. Well, I love that because the anecdote aside, the fact that, again, like getting good at that craft. Let me ask you this. So you were really good at this board and that created this opportunity to get in with Kelley Blue Book, but that's not necessarily how it's going to typically go down for the average guy. And I love that you talked about the training video for cars, because my other video guy that's also really good friends with Richard Williams and shoots a ton of his stuff, Brandon Anderson, got his start in video making those training videos for car dealerships. So that's just and that was like his first paying gig doing that. So that's beautiful that y'all both had that same kind of intro into the business. So for somebody like him who wants to, or anyone else that's listening to this that has a desire to live a different kind of a non-traditional 9-to-5, going down that route, and who wants to drive cool cars and write reviews about them. I mean, like, you've kind of got this dream job. What would you recommend for them to get down that path or to get started for that?
If you were asking me that 15 years ago, my answer might have something to do with networking or trying to ingratiate yourself to decision makers, that kind of thing. Proximity doesn't hurt. Proximity to decision makers. The way I would answer that now is start making stuff and don't wait. Don't plan too much. Just start making stuff now with whatever you have and let it blossom from there. I am a huge proponent of just starting. Because oftentimes planning is a great way to delay action. It feels like action. It feels satisfying to your ego because you're thinking about it. And it's like, oh, you have grand plans. But here's what I'll say is I had been doing video for more than a decade at Kelley Blue Book when I decided to start my own YouTube channel, right? And if you go back and look at the earliest videos, they are radically different than the videos that I'm making now on my own YouTube channel. And the reason is because I had to do them to learn what they should be. You don't know what it should be until you have a starting point. It's hard to mold something that has no form. So for me, what I would say is that if you want to review cars for a living, if you have an iPhone and you have a buddy who will let you, spend a little time with this car, somebody who will let you do something. And you have YouTube, free video hosting, free distribution. You can make something. And even if nobody watches it, by doing, you will discover what your talents are, where your challenges are. And here's the beautiful thing. You keep making stuff, just make, and you will iterate and you'll get better and better and better and better. And eventually, ideally, someone will notice you are making something and perhaps open a door for you, and that would be great. And when they do notice you, you will have a body of work that you can show them that is proof of your ability. That's one way to do it. The other way is that you will keep doing it, and you don't need a decision maker to notice you. The audience will notice you, and they will say, hey, that person's doing something really, really good. And the audience will think, well, they just did that naturally. No. They don't know that you've been working on it and making things and iterating. So, and that's just the world I know, but I am a huge fan of, if you want to do it, start doing it now in whatever form you can do it, and continue to grow and learn.
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect definition of your YouTube channel, because you did all the heavy lifting for a decade with Kelly Blue Book. And now that so when you hit the ground running with your YouTube channel, you had 10 years of hard work to, to start with. Like, so you were already kind of ahead of the game. But even then, still, like, your YouTube channel, it was just kind of doing its thing at first. And then coronavirus hit and things
Yeah.
changed a little bit for you. So let's talk about that, because that's
It was
remarkable, right?
it was a funny thing because I started doing car videos on my YouTube channel because that's what I know. But yeah, like, and I would also do helicopters because I love helicopters. And I had kind of given up on the helicopter stuff. I thought, well, nobody's really watching these videos. People seem to like the car stuff well enough because it's me and it's what they expect from me. But
Well,
you're
it's
absolutely right.
it's the flashy, shiny, it's the typical bling that everybody,
Yeah.
is drawn to.
Yeah, and it's funny. So when coronavirus hit, it's you never want to revel at a moment when other people are struggling. But
Certainly.
for me, one of the silver linings of coronavirus is that while people were stuck indoors, there was no reason why I couldn't be out flying. And for a moment there, people were using my helicopter videos. I would just do flyover videos of LA, like, hey, man, this is what's happening in LA right now. It's all shut down. The beaches are empty. Traffic is weird. It's a weird time out here. And I made a few of those videos, and then they kind of hit. And I had this real interesting spike where, April, May, my world kind of exploded. People started just reaching out to me. My Instagram exploded, and I'm like confronted with DMs. People are like emailing me with like all sorts of weird requests. Sponsors started approaching me, and I was like, I didn't know what to do with all that stuff. I still have a full-time job, and so it sounds like an awesome problem to have, and it was. My channel grew a lot in a very short period of time, but in some ways it was also really overwhelming. And then it also brought about another question, which is like, oh, this is going great. How do I sustain this? It's
Now
like,
what, right? Like, what do I do
yeah,
with
right?
this? All of a
What do
sudden
you do with it? Yeah, it's like there's this moment in time that's happening, and I knew like coronavirus, how we feel now is not how we're going to feel in a year. So I don't know if there's still going to be an appetite for what I'm doing now, but yeah, it was an interesting moment because it really expanded the channel, and it's what's interesting. The other challenge: how do you handle the growth, and then how do you handle the tempering of that growth? Because I had this massive spike, and it's like, is this how it's going to be forever? And the answer was no.
no.
No, it's mellowed out quite a bit. So the new equilibrium is much better than the old equilibrium, but it's not what that spike was. So as views start to ramp down from this, coronavirus inspired frenzy, it's like, well, am I failing? Am I bad at this? Like, did I screw up? Did I miss my opportunity? And so I guess that's like some of the introspective questions that popped up because of that success.
Yeah. So now I'm curious, because a lot of people, they start their YouTube channels because they want to be an influencer. They want to, they want to be a professional YouTuber. But I get the sense that really wasn't your aim at the beginning. So once that hit, did that change the goals? Did that change the perspectives for you? Or did it just reiterate kind of like what you kind of thought your goals and intentions were to begin with?
You mentioned having all that experience at Kelly Blue Book to launch my channel. One of the other things that being at Kelly Blue Book for so long has really given me, I guess, two really good things. One, I don't fetishize the automobile anymore. So when I wake up in the morning and I'm thinking about what would make me happy, I know for a fact owning a Lamborghini is not going to fill the empty hole that's inside all of us. It'll be cool for a little bit, but it will not fix you. And so that's one big realization. And then, like, the other realization is that accolades and attention from people are like that Lamborghini. It's like it's like eating a Dorito. Like, well, that was great, and then it dissipates immediately. I've won awards for automotive journalism. I'm making air quotes now for those who can't see me, and it's like, oh, this is really cool, and then it just goes away. And eventually, if you're chasing the high of people telling you you're good, it will only lead to dissatisfaction. So something else has to exist. And for me, the thing that drives me is not validation from the comment section or people seeing me on the streets and saying, "Hey, you're that KBB guy." Like it's fine, it's nice, but that's not at all why I do this. Like for me, it's a lot like being an awesome janitor or being a good maintenance man on a helicopter. This is my field. This is the place I operate.
This is my area of expertise.
Exactly. This is my area of expertise, and I derive satisfaction from doing work that I know is great. When Jose, my mechanic, fixes something because he knows it should be fixed, he may not even know, I might not even notice it, but he knows that it's better. And I do things when I write music, I write all the music that's in the KBB videos and in my videos. All of that music is
no,
mine.
I had no idea. Wow.
And
well, then we got to talk, man, because I got a need.
That's funny. So when I write those songs, there are things that people will just never notice about them. There are details and nuances that I know no one will consciously be aware of, but perhaps in a subconscious way, it makes the end product better. And so for me, I just derive satisfaction from doing things that I know are great. And I've had this happen a zillion times where it's like you do a video that the audience loves, and I'm like, I don't know, man, that's not my best work. And vice versa. I've had videos where it's like, I know this didn't catch, the algorithm didn't shine upon it in YouTube, the audience didn't love it. I think it was amazing. I know I did a great job, and for me, that's satisfying. Yeah. So as long as I know I'm doing my best work, that to me is what motivates me. Yeah. That and I'd like to, pay my mortgage.
And yeah, that's always a bonus too, right? Well, and I think there's just something to be said about doing good work. Like just to be, and what I find incredibly rewarding is when you, like the music you were talking about, when you're adding that little extra detail that nobody notices, or like it's never gonna be heard, but there's that one guy and he catches it and he makes a comment on it, dude. That's the one where I'm just like, yeah, like that
is
like,
true.
And in turn, like when I know the guy, like whoever it was that made that comment, okay, that's a guy I want to know. That's a person I want to be close to, because they're paying attention. They have that eye for detail. One thing that's become a huge theme for my social media and for this show has become these little things matter. When I mean, that was probably the biggest learning curve for me, because when I was a teenager and in my 20s and like going up, getting started and getting into the working career and all that, like I always took those little details for granted. It's like, oh, that doesn't matter. Like, who cares? We don't need to take that inventory. We don't need to write down that little stock piece, and we don't need to, just glossing over all those little small details. But now, as someone who's trying to coach others and dealing with a lot of younger folks that have that kind of mentality, it's like, and now I see the result of what happens when you do those little things for 10 years. What happens when you do all those little steps for an extended period of time? It does matter. It's everything. And one of the things that I've stuck with is like how you do the little things determines how you do the big things. And if you'll take
right there
responsibility and action and doing those little things right, like then when it comes down to the big decisions, when it comes down to the big work, then you'll be prepared and you'll be ready for it, ready for the challenge.
Yeah, that notion of when people see something they like, oh, that's a desirable job or that's a desirable object, I'd like to have that. They see the end result, but I think we over-index on the importance of big decisions. I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, your life is actually probably not going to be defined by big decisions unless you decide to steal a car and run from the cops. Like, that's a big decision that will probably define your life. Yeah. But mostly what defines your life is all those little decisions, the cumulative benefits of making smart moves over a very long period of time. To me, I think that is what I would credit, to the degree I've had success in my life. A lot of small decisions accumulating. It's like if an asteroid is going to hit the Earth. They always say, like, you're not going to be able to stop it at the end. It's already moving towards the Earth. But if you can alter its trajectory ever so slightly while it's way out there, over a long period of time, just a very slight change in trajectory can yield a big change over distance. So you and I are on the same page
That long game, man. I'm telling you, that's if I've
Mm-hmm.
learned anything from all this, it's that long game for sure.
Yeah.
Well, so I want to nerd out on you just a little bit more with the helicopter stuff. So when I was in school, I had to take an elective, and one of the or a couple of electives to get the degree wrapped up and everything. And I had to take one that was non-business related. So one of the ones that fit my schedule was air traffic control. So
Oof.
so I got to learn a lot of the acronyms and all those little, I guess acronyms is the only other word I can think of for it, but all those little call signs and everything and all that. So my nerdy question is like, for most traditional pilots, I know basically nothing about helicopters and what it takes to be a helicopter pilot, but do you fly with visual flight rules versus instrument flight rules like regular pilots, or do you guys all have to be on an instrument flight plan and all that?
Yeah, so helicopter pilots are almost always flying visual flight rules, and it makes sense. We tend to fly lower to the ground, and the nature of a helicopter, if you can't see, then you kind of can't use the helicopter and the functions it's meant to be used for, whether that's sling loading or touring, like taking people out for a tour, or doing camera work. You kind of have to see anyway. So yeah, you absolutely can get an instrument rating. I guess that'd be the next thing on the list. I have my commercial pilot's license, but I don't really have a ton of desire to fly instruments, specifically because it's a disposable skill. So I did some instrument training for my commercial license. It is not easy, and it's a dedicated skill that unless you're using it regularly, you start to lose. And so for me, I'm not flying for my job. I'm not flying to offshore oil rigs. I don't need to.
You're not rescuing people off the side of a mountain or anything crazy like that, or in the middle of
Honestly,
a snowstorm or something.
I am not doing anything important. I'm just flying around because I love flying. And so, the instrument flight rules, I don't need to fly by instruments. And for those who don't know, it basically, like VFR, visual flight rules, is you're looking out the windows and you're seeing where you go. Instrument flight rules means you're not looking outside. You're only looking at your instruments to define where you go. And it is complicated.
And where you are. It's really complicated.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
I enjoyed getting to hear your or read your conversation with the LA magazine or whoever it was you were talking about getting recognized by some of the air traffic control guys. I thought that was really so cool, man.
Yeah,
like I don't care about celebrity, but that's cool though.
Yeah, it's funny, man. But that's happened a couple of times now, and it's like recognition from the right person is way better than recognition from a lot of people. And I remember the first time I flew into Santa Monica, and they're like, helicopter 90285, the best helicopter in the world, hey Micah, or whoever. And it's just like, oh my gosh, it was like Tom Hanks spotting me. It felt like an amazing moment. But yeah, for me, that was like very, very
well, it's kind of like validation, right? It goes back to that when you're good at what you do and seeing other people that are good at what they do, and then when they recognize you, it feels like it means a little bit more. So, well, let's talk about that, because not only have you been recognized, but they've also kind of looked out for you a little bit in some of your, I don't want to call them bucket lists, but you have some places that you'd like to go that you don't necessarily, that you need some permissions and things like that to be able to fly over certain areas and whatnot. So how have those guys helped you overcome some of those hurdles and obstacles?
Yeah. So when I first started really digging into doing the helicopter flyover videos on my channel, there were people, so many requests to fly over this place or that place. But one of the places people really want me to fly over was Disneyland. And the thing is, Disneyland has what's called a temporary flight restriction, a TFR, over it. And temporary flight restrictions pop up like when the president is in town. There'll be a TFR and you're not supposed to fly. If there's a big fire, they'll put a TFR there. So no general aviation in this area, so firefighting operations. Disneyland is special. They have a TFR over Disneyland, and it is permanent. It's just been there for as long as I've been flying. It started in the 90s, I believe. And they say it's for safety. It started after 9/11. They say it's for safety, but really it's largely about keeping airplanes from like flying banners over Disneyland.
Right,
Is my
right.
suspicion. Anyway, so I said yeah, like, so I noted that there's a TFR over Disneyland, and I was like, I don't know if I can, I don't think I can, I can't fly there. And then people reached out to me, other pilots and air traffic controllers, and they're like, actually, you can, as long as you're on with SoCal approach, then you can vector over it. And so what's amazing is that the air traffic controllers and other pilots helped me. I learned a bunch of stuff about, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And so I did a helicopter flyover video of Disneyland, and it was great. And what's crazy is that after I did that video, the actual controller I was speaking with while I flew over Disneyland reached out to me on Instagram and was like, hey, that was a cool video. I kind of got in a little bit of trouble because you flew over Disneyland, and they actually changed the rules because of my video. So now if you try and fly over Disneyland, they will vector you around it. They actually sent out a notice, hey, we don't want people doing this. So, so I think I might have the last helicopter, maybe the only helicopter flyover video of Disneyland, but honestly, I've had so many good conversations with controllers, and they've been so generous with their information. So
yeah, well, they're great guys.
Yeah. Same theme, people who know their craft and do it well. And I have such respect for air traffic controllers.
So I'm just curious that Bill Burrs, I'm a big fan of his and comedian. He's really super funny. So he's another helicopter guy, and he's in LA. Do you guys, do your paths ever cross? Are you guys ever y'all in the same airport or anything like that? Or
I've never seen Bill Burr, and I would love to. I've had people like, oh, you should fly with Bill. And it's like, I'd love for him to know I exist. So
wouldn't that be
one
nice,
of these days. Right? Yeah, one of these days, man.
That's great. That's great. Well, I think one of the reasons that it's appealing, that your YouTube channel is so appealing, is because everybody knows LA. Everybody around the world, we all know Hollywood, and we all have these images and these, we've all seen it in the movies a million times and whatnot, but you provide a different perspective of a landscape that we all feel like we know. And so it's like when we can see it from a different angle. Well, and not only that, but LA's known for, you're also kind of known for the drive, the high-speed chase, the helicopter following the high-speed chase thing too. So it's like when you add that component, and then you add all the aspects of Hollywood and just giving another perspective to something that we all feel like we know, I think that's very appealing. I think that, you may have seen that spike and it's flattened out a little bit now, but I feel like that you'll continue to see success just because of that.
Two things. You're absolutely right about recasting something that is familiar to an international audience. I was blown away by how many Australians and folks from the UK reached out to me about the videos, and they just have an appreciation for LA. And so a lot of people internationally do know LA and like to see it from that viewpoint. And then the second thing is, yesterday when I was doing my flight up to Malibu, on the same frequency, when you're flying around LA, there's a general frequency that people announce their positions on. Car chase happening. So you hear all the news choppers talking to the police choppers. There was a guy, I guess, on a motorcycle who was fleeing. And it's like, this is Los Angeles. Of course. We've got and I mentioned, it's in my video. You'll see it when it goes up this Saturday. That nice. There's a car chase happening on the radios while I'm flying up to Malibu. So yeah.
That's perfect. So stereotypical, right? Wouldn't have it any other way. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man, so I got to shift gears here a little bit. Oh, I got all sidetracked on all that. Let me pull up my questions here. Let's see what else we got. So what was your first big win with doing this fun kind of, going from maintenance guy to doing what you had to do versus now being able to do what you want to do? You said it wasn't even until about 10 years into it that you were kind of okay, now I've kind of made it. Was there an aha moment for you, or a specific point in time where you're kind of oh yeah, okay, this is really going to do something. This is really going to be something.
Yeah, when I started working at Kelley Blue Book, the way we were making videos was very much like Motor Week. If you guys remember Motor Week from way back in the day, very kind of formulaic and lacking in personality, almost like a government entity is making videos. And so one of the first successes we had with videos that were more personality driven and willing to be a little bit more casual was a video we did with a Ford Raptor. It was the first Raptor video. I think that would have been 2010. And we did a video where we just kind of did, it was like the top 10 things you definitely need to do in a Ford Raptor. And that was the first one that kind of really went. In fact, I think that may be still one of our top 3 videos of all times, but it kind of hit and got, millions of views. And it was neat because it was a real expression of being open to not overly planning. We actually just got in a truck and just went out and saw what happened. And like that sort of openness of not needing to plan everything and control everything, but just sort of letting the situation
keeping
unfold.
it organic, essentially, right?
Absolutely. Keeping it organic and just an openness to the unexpected. It really came together in a special way with that video. And for me, that's sort of been a defining trait of how I approach things, which is that I always plan and then I'm always willing to deviate from the plan. And that's how I do everything. So if you ever watch a Kelley Blue Book video, I script everything and then I deviate from the script. But knowing where you're starting, where you're ending, how you're getting there, and then being willing to adapt along the way, I think is a pretty good formula for success.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, that's the Hollywood model. That's how you make a movie. You've got a script, you've got it all laid out, but then there's time the actors are going to go off script and do their own thing and ad lib and have that, and that's where you get some magical moments for sure.
Absolutely,
I mean, it makes absolutely perfect sense. But there's all that preparation going in, and none of that takes the place of that preparation that you're putting into it on the front side. That's beautiful. I love that. Amazing.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. So with the Kelley Blue Book, you've got a certain agenda that you're trying to accomplish on YouTube and things like that. And then with your personal YouTube, that agenda probably looks a little bit different. So what are some of the things that you do different in preparation with your Kelley Blue Book videos versus what you do with your personal videos?
Yeah, the Kelley Blue Book agenda is to inform actual car shoppers in a very precise and digestible way, and also to help promote the brand offsites. And so the concept has been to make tight videos, to get rid of, that's why they're scripted, so we don't sit around driving a car and repeat ourselves. For me, it's always a warning sign when you're watching somebody review a car and they said, and like I said before, no. If you said it, you don't need to say it again. Yeah. And so Kelley Blue Book is really about being precise and making it tight for people that don't really care about cars. They're just buying cars, and it's more of a transactional thing, and they want to feel good about their purchase and know exactly what they need to know, but they're not watching because they love cars necessarily, though we do have people who like that too. On my channel, it's sort of a different experience. We go longer form, we're unscripted. I have bullet points, so I still know what I'm talking about, but our channel is a little bit more about personality, and we're a little less agenda driven by being
it's conversational kind of.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, it's like I think what works on our channel is that I have my wife and kid along for our car reviews, and there are dynamics at play that you could not expressed via Kelley Blue Book video because it's still a corporate entity. I try to be casual and human, but it's still a corporate entity. With our channel, there are in-jokes that you can, and ways that my wife and I communicate when reviewing a car. We do family car reviews, and that's the entire premise of the car reviews we do on my channel. You cannot have that kind of chemistry without 22 years of marriage. We've been married forever.
Yeah, and it's real.
It's a real thing. And so it's more about how we are viewing a car, whereas Kelley Blue Book is sort of an efficient way to understand a car and make a good car purchase.
Did you have an agenda with doing those videos on your personal channel for monetizing and things like that?
My agenda wasn't really driven by like monetization, or it wasn't really a money-making move. It was more about especially at the time when I started it, I felt like I needed to have something that was mine. I feel like I needed to do something that was a pure expression of like my sensibilities. And the other thing I've recognized too is that over time, when I first started doing videos at Kelly Blue Book, it was about the brands. Motor Trend is here. Car and Driver is here. You go on a press trip to drive a new car, and it's like, oh, who are you with? I'm with Edmunds. I'm with Auto Week, right? And that's how it was in the beginning. And over time, I have seen it completely shift. It doesn't matter. The brands don't matter now. It's people. YouTubers are on these things. The Toyota Supra launch was an enlightening one for me because I had enough crossover with the YouTuber wave. And I was like, oh my gosh, these are my people. It's not the traditional journalists, it's the YouTubers. And by being exposed to those people, I'm just an individual with moxie and a camera, and I'm driving cars, and I don't need an organization to tell me what to do. When I had exposure to those people, I'm like, that's who I am. And with that exposure, I thought I need to build my own brand. And the wonderful thing is that Kelly Blue Book, to their great credit, let me do that.
Yeah.
And the way I pitched them, and I truly believe this, is that even if you're an organization like Kelly Blue Book and you've got people representing your brand, those people, if they have individual brands, that shines, assuming those are not caustic brands, that shines well on your company. So if somebody sees me do a helicopter video or a family car review on my channel, and then they're Googling, and then they come across another video that I'm doing for KBB, they are much more likely to subscribe to that channel, to have an affinity for that brand, because they know me. They know me from this
here's
other
something
domain.
else cool he's doing.
And this happens with weird frequency. I had on my YouTube channel, one of my first big successes was this helicopter startup video. No edits, just had a GoPro running, single camera, no cuts, and I just started the helicopter. And then somehow the algorithm picked it up, and it blasted through 1 million views. And people in the comments are like, "Wait, is this the guy from Kelly Blue Book? Like, what's that guy doing here?" And people didn't know
in the
helicopter.
What the?
Yeah, and so having that being able to triangulate and have places that are off-site, away from Kelly Blue Book, that can help connect people to the brand is good. So again, to Kelly Blue Book's great credit, rather than doing the old school business thing where, oh, if it's good for Micah, then it must be bad for us.
Right.
They said, no, go ahead and do it, and my motivation is I want Kelly Blue Book to succeed too. So every video, like I always have a link to a Kelly Blue Book listing. I always mention Kelly Blue Book. I don't deny that I'm part of Kelly Blue Book. I want people to love Kelly Blue Book and watch my videos over there too. I just needed to create a space where this is this and this is this, and there's a little bit of a Venn diagram crossover, and they can coexist, and that's going to be okay. And so it's been a neat thing. And my hope is that more companies recognize that individual brands, individual people with their own brands, like that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, I've been thinking a lot about digital community and having the multiple brands within that community and having alignment with that. Cause and I'm thinking about it like from the podcasting aspect, cause I've been trying to get some podcasting network things going, and then getting some alignment with some brands that then you could have that same type of a relationship, some of those same dynamics just within a podcasting space kind of thing, kind of concept. I'm going to need to pick your brain a lot more about some of this stuff offline, because there's a lot of this that applies directly to what I'm really trying to do. But I'm burning through a ton of time, and I've got a bunch of stuff that I still want to get to. So we're going to put all that on the back burner. And I wanted to kind of get through some of the meat and potato stuff that I normally ask most of my guests, some of the continual perpetual stuff. So, reading and learning new content, having that learning mindset is a big thing for me, and it's a big thing for people that are like you, that get really good at what they do. The only way that you do that is perpetual learning, like we talked about with the aircrafts and stuff like that. So number one, is there anything exciting that you're reading? Or two, how do you consume content? Are you a big reader? Do you do, obviously YouTube videos are probably in the mix, I would think, but like, how do you like to consume your content?
So it's funny, but I don't consume virtually any automotive media. I work in that space, so I don't really want to watch it.
You're saturated.
I am so saturated, yeah. But what I do consume is I listen to podcasts. I read. Nice. I read on my phone. I use like the books app. on my iPhone. I'm currently reading with the Almanac of Naval Ravikant, who's I don't know if you know him.
Whoa, no. Say that again. The Almanac of who?
Naval Ravikant. You will, I think, like him.
I do know that name now that you said it.
Yeah.
The second time.
Yeah, he's a thought leader. I think I first found out about him like listening to Tim Ferriss or something. But
yeah, of course.
He has some really interesting ideas about. I think it'll align well with the entire thrust of your podcast. But he's said something very interesting. It's basically a collection of his thoughts. A lot of it's derived from Twitter and a direct interview, but that you're doing the right thing with your career when what you're doing to other people appears to be work, but to you feels like play. And that concept of like you're kind of doing what you're meant to do, I think that's a really powerful thing. And I have done jobs where it's like, this is not where I'm meant to be. This is really heavy lifting. And that doesn't mean heavy lifting is always bad, but there's something about finding that place where you can do it for hours and hours and hours. You can do it 10 hours a day and you don't feel that weight. For me, writing music is like that. Flying is like that. Making videos is like that. And to me, that is a reminder that I'm doing the right thing. So that Naval Ravikant book is pretty darn good.
That's amazing. That's brilliant. Yeah. Well, never mind. I'll skip that. But speaking of podcasts, I'm curious what some of the podcasts that you're into, but above and beyond that, if you had a podcast, who would you like to talk to, or what would your podcast be about?
So first question, the podcast I listen to The Daily from the New York Times, just to be aware of what's going on in the world. I really like Decoder Ring. It's a podcast about cultural phenomenon. And I just like it because it takes familiar things that we know from society. It could be like the Baby Shark song, or I just listened to an episode all about Jane Fonda workout, but it digs into how those developed. And to me, I like kind of the nuanced, interesting stories behind things we know superficially are super interesting. I think the other ones I listen to, like I'll listen to Dax Shepard's podcast.
Yeah,
and yeah. So I think those are the biggest.
Speaking of that, do you listen to Malcolm Gladwell's? The name of it's escaping me, but it's right in that same wheelhouse there, where he dives into some really cool things.
I love the Malcolm Gladwell books, and I haven't listened to the podcast, so thank you for reminding me to give it a listen. But I always think about that 10,000 hours concept, which goes to what we were talking about earlier about just start doing that's because you need those hours.
We might have to make that the title of this episode, the 10,000 hour rule kind of thing, because it perfectly aligns with what we're doing. So based on what you've heard for this podcast, and obviously I can't get Naval or anybody big like that, but is there anybody that comes to mind that you think would be a good guest for this show based on what we're talking about, some of these themes?
Gosh, a good guest for your show, I would need to think about that a little bit, specifically because when we think about like lifestyle design, there are so many ways that you can look good from the outside, but if you were in it, you wouldn't like it. And I would want to be thoughtful about that. There are a lot of people who live desirable looking lives that I would want no piece of. So I think that's the thing, is like you'd have to dig in a little bit deeper to figure out if what you're selling is something that people should actually buy.
Yeah, that's a very big theme for this show. It's like I love to profile success, but very rarely am I profiling fame and fortune. There's a lot.
You should talk to my helicopter mechanic.
Yeah, you know what? I think he'd be an amazing guy because he's just an expert at his craft. That's the kind of guy that really appeals to me because I'm such a dork like that. Like all those little nerdy things like that, just I find fascinating.
I am not joking, because he's one of these dudes that he just on a whim, like in the last week of high school, he like went to check out aviation maintenance, and it's not a profitable job, and it was a really tough thing, but by pure excellence he has created this amazing business for himself, and they have more business than they can possibly know what to do with. And like, there's literally nobody else I would take my helicopter to. So I think that, yeah, talk to Jose Rodriguez over at Creative Rotorcraft Maintenance.
Well, I tell you what, I might be hitting you up when we're done here for an introduction, because I think that would be amazing. And I'd love to, again, like that, the craftsmanship aspect. Like, so my I'm a general contractor by trade. I grew up swinging hammers, and I'm very much comfortable building a house, much more so than I am doing this kind of stuff. So anybody that's a craftsman, one of the things I love about craftsmen is that you have something to show. At the end of the day, you have something to show for your efforts and your work. And that's one of the things that's always been so rewarding for me when you talk about lifestyle design, especially. It's like, I love being able to just say, like, here's something to show for your work, something to show for your efforts. But oh man, so much good stuff here. Okay, so what is a habit, or is there something different or odd about you that contributes to your success? Do you have any odd habits, routines, morning routines, anything like that contribute to some of your success?
So I do have a morning habit. I'm not sure if it contributes to my success, but this is going to seem weird. But when I first started on YouTube, I weighed more than I do now. And I did a video with the Suzuki SX4, and somebody mentioned that I had man tits. And I thought, I got to fix this. And
welcome to my world.
And so what I don't want is my physicality to be an impediment to communication. Like, basically, I don't care. I don't want to be hot. I don't want my business and my like brand to be anchored on being like a sex god, because that will fade. But what I also don't want is people being like so distracted by my pointy boobs that they can't focus on the fact that I'm driving a car and I'm saying something of substance. So what I did shortly thereafter is I started doing push-ups. And so my workout routine is less than 10 minutes a day. And that is a habit that I do not break. Every morning, I either do a zillion push-ups, or I do push-ups, or I do pull-ups. That's 6 days a week. It's like right about 10 minutes a day. And I started very, very small. The reason I started doing push-ups, a guy named Amos Kwan on a press trip was like, hey, this website, 100 push-ups. And so I started doing that, and I started small. I said, if I can't commit myself to doing push-ups at home, I can't do anything. Start with a small commitment that you know you can do, and do it regularly, and it will yield benefits. And the thing is, I'm not like in amazing shape. I've worked my way up to average, but if you look at that SX4 video, I've actually done a fair bit of improving. So that's one habit. But I think to your greater point about success, the bigger thing that I do that I think, if I have one trait that has helped me succeed, it's identifying opportunities that other people just do not see. And that's like, if I have a superpower, that would be it. I recognize avenues that are not clear to other people. When I think back at the radio station, that was my transition into automotive media, there were a lot of other people who worked there. There were a lot of other people in the same job that I was, that were around those same people. And nobody saw the opportunity that I did, or exploited it in the same way, by seeing, oh, there's real potential with these people. I need to work my ass off to be an asset to them. And I think that is one of the things, starting my own YouTube channel, that's kind of an audacious move for a guy who's already working for a media company. And I don't think most people would have made that move, but I feel like I built enough credibility, and I was able to sell it in a reasonable way. And it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. I think recognizing opportunities and then having the audacity to pursue them has probably been one of the greatest contributors to where I am now. And I mean, just even right now, like, we're moving, that was a quick decision. Most people labor over these things, long decision-making processes about what should I do? Well, maybe we should. Okay, maybe we'll do it, and then we'll get the house fixed up, and then we'll put it on the market or whatever like that. And it's just like, I don't know, man, housing market, it's crazy right now, and I don't have to work in an office ever again, and we like Lake Arrowhead, so let's just do that. And now we're doing it. So like, I'll literally be vacating this house in 5 days.
Yeah, we would be totally remiss if we did not bring that up in a podcast about lifestyle design. The fact that we got started a little bit late tonight because you guys were signing the deals and signing the contracts to close the deal to move on your house out of Long Beach and get out there to the sticks, if you will. That's what I like to
Yeah.
call it. To
Yeah.
go out there, kind of have this kind of a more connecting with nature, and you created a situation now where you're going to be working from home. You've let the folks at Kelly Blue Book know, and y'all worked out all those details, and now you're crafting a lifestyle. Well, once again, you're crafting a lifestyle by design, man.
It's a big life decision, but hesitation would do me no favors. And that's happened a lot. The windows, I think no matter what you do, there will be opportunities that pop up, and whether you recognize them and whether you're willing to seize them during the brief period they present themselves, that will define whether or not you succeed in your goals.
You are just the perfect guest for this show, man. I'm gonna have to bring you on again just to let you talk for an hour, because you're just making all my points. I really don't even need to say anything. So we've just hit the nail on the head. This is beautiful, man. No, like, literally, seriously. I mean, it's like you're taking my script and just hitting the high points. So we're gonna wrap it up, man. You've been beautiful. There's two questions I like to end with, and I stole them both from Tim Ferriss, so you might get a kick out of this. And again, you kind of already answered one, so I'm curious if the answer may change. But the first one's pretty straightforward because most people know this. So if you had a billboard for all the world to see, and you're in a helicopter, so you see plenty of billboards out there, what would Micah's billboard say? And then after that, what's your favorite item under $100 that you could not live without that you use on an everyday basis?
I think the billboard right now, if I could put anything up, it would say, empathize, please de-escalate. One thing that I really, really hate right now is that we are in a place where everybody is so scared, no matter where you are politically, that fear is making us do things and say things that are unadvisable. I think what we need is to have a little bit more empathy and consider that smart people can come to different conclusions. And a little bit more empathy, I think, would be a really valuable thing right now. And my focus is to de-escalate, to find common grounds, and to try and bridge divides. Here's what I know. Like, I worked in conservative talk radio for a very long time, very conservative. And I'm a very kind of middle of the road, moderate kind of guy. But I know wonderful people on all sides of the political spectrum. And I know you could be a wonderful person and I can disagree with you vehemently. And I wish we could reach a point where we see people we disagree with as humans. So that would
be nice to get back to that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Little kindness goes a long way. I think we could all use some more of that for sure. Okay. So your last one, what's your favorite item under $100 you couldn't live without?
Favorite item under $100. Oh man, I listen to so much Tim Ferriss podcast that I should probably know this. Oh, you know what I'm gonna do? Okay, what I did. Okay,
I could give you the answer that you already gave, but I don't want to.
Oh yeah. This is gonna come back. Remind me. What did I say earlier?
You're eccentric. From 10 years ago, you always got it with you. You never go anywhere without it, and now you've got it locked in.
Bless you, sir. That is the perfect answer. It's absolutely true. I mean, seriously, like before any super stressful event, I will take 2 precautionary Excedrin because I do not want to have the crazy migraine experience that I had all those years ago. Clearly, I was scarred by that first video. So yes, the Excedrin. Thank you for that. Perfect answer.
Awesome. That's pretty beautiful. Well, hey, and if you can't find Excedrin, you can always go Goodies if you're a redneck.
I don't know what that is.
The Goodies, so basically it's just crushed up Excedrin, so it's like in powder form. So you take it down real quick, and it's like basically hitting you fast. So
next time I'm in your hood, you got to hook me with some Goodies.
Oh yeah, well I'll send you some. I'll do even one better than that. So
I'll
set you up. Yeah, it's the NASCAR redneck version of Excedrin. So I'll take good care of you. Well, hey, Micah, thank you so much for your time. You are, like I said, the perfect guest. I already knew you were going to be a lot of fun just because you live a very exciting and dynamic life. But to hear you so aligned with so many of the principles that we teach on this show, God, it's just beautiful. And I love the fact that I was able to find you and to watch your journey and to watch the YouTube channel just go crazy. And it's just a lot of fun, man. You're a beautiful example to a lot of people. And God, we could use a lot more of that. So thank you.
This was really fun. And honestly, I think anybody who is encouraging people to be a little bit more thoughtful about their existence, that can be expressed in a lot of different ways. It can be about success, or it can just be about being more kind. I think that's really good. So thank you for what you're doing.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's sometimes it feels kind of lonely. You're not sure. Podcasting can be this like lonely place out there where you don't necessarily know how much is going on, but sometimes we get some statistics that make us realize that we are making a difference. So that's good. So we've talked at length about your YouTube and your social media and all that kind of stuff. So we've got to make sure that we let everyone know where to find Micah on social media, YouTube, all that kind of stuff you want to plug. And then last but not least, I always want to give everyone a platform to share any charity or organization that they are involved with that's doing any good out there in the world. Now's your opportunity to promote that as well.
Yeah, so Kelly Blue Book's YouTube channel. So if you just type KBB and then almost any car, I'll pop up. Right. So that'd be a really good one. And then if you want to find my personal channel, I mean, either on Instagram, I'm now on TikTok.
All right.
I'm dabbling. We're trying to work out the choreography.
So are we, man. And it's a whole different world, but we're figuring it out.
I'm most active on YouTube and Instagram. So if you just look up, search Micah Flies, and that'll get you there. MICAH Flies, Micah Drives, Micah Muzio, any of that stuff will lead me to it.
It'll all get you there.
Yeah, exactly. And then you know what? The charity that I really sorry. What is it called? Oh gosh, there we go. I'm having a brain freeze here. The charity that I just participated in for a golf ball drop that I really thought was a wonderful thing, and it really moved me emotionally, was the Live Like Jack Foundation. This gentleman, Fred Salas, reached out to me because of my helicopter videos, and his son died of an asthma attack about 2 years ago, and his son was like, I think only 7 or 8 years old, and it's just it really moved me, as a father. And his entire purpose is to encourage organ donation, and it was one of those things where it's like, I can't not participate. I mean, how am I not going to go help this guy by flying my helicopter over a golf ball hole and pouring balls out? But it was a wonderful thing. So the Live Like Jack Foundation, I thought, was just a really neat thing. And so be an organ donor, and if you feel like supporting that foundation, you can find it by Googling Live Like Jack.
Awesome. That's perfect. Great way to end the show. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your work. Keep it up, and keep giving us those amazing videos, man. We all look forward to it.
I appreciate that. High five.
All right.